Looks like we're still waiting on people, so we'll give it a couple more minutes. Well, it does look like we have quorum. Jim, did anybody say they were going to be absent or late? Joe, can you tell us how this works?
Welcome to our virtual meeting.
Start, Joe?
Yes.
I'm not able to, and I presume the other voting members aren't.
Oh, sure. Sorry about that. Let me fix that.
And then also, I just came out of a meeting with Captain Donahue. Oh, she just joined us. Okay, I was just going to say she'll be late because she's in another city meeting.
All right. Should be all set now.
Thank you, Joe.
You bet. Welcome to our virtual meeting. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. Members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. All panelists, that is alders, committee members, and staff, have the ability to mute and unmute themselves. Panelists can also rename themselves if they wish to add pronouns after their name. Please do not alter the naming convention otherwise. Also, please continue to use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak, ask questions, or request a roll call vote. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the committee may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the committee, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, sir. This meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order. All speakers wishing to address the committee regarding an agenda item must first complete a registration form and submit it to the city clerk designee. Speakers may speak to the committee only after they're called by the chair, and each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. The public is not allowed to address or respond to speakers or committee members unless they've been recognized by the chair of the committee. Mr. Verbeek, do you have any notified absences?
I do not.
Awesome. Will you, so I got myself out of order here. I call this meeting of the ALRC to order at 5:39 p.m. Will you please call the roll?
Sure. Alder Miadzi?
Here.
Alder Revere?
Here.
Ms. Reese?
Here.
Alder Carter? Mr. Fletcher?
Here.
Mr. Donnelly?
Present.
Chair, we have quorum.
Excellent. Next order of business is approval of the minutes of the ALRC meeting on April 21st, 2021. Committee, what is your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
Move approval.
Second. Your motion to approve from Mr. Fletcher, second by Alder Miadzi. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none. Anyone interested in a roll call vote for this item? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Verbeek, are there any registrants for general public comment?
Sorry, I don't have that up at the moment.
No, there isn't.
Excellent. Next item, members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any such disclosures or recusals? I'll say for item 40, renewal of licenses, I am the president of the Bartell Community Theater Foundation, so I recuse myself from that item. Any further disclosures or recusals? Okay. Next up is the consent agenda. This time, a consent agenda will be moved with the recommended action to grant with any conditions or other items, which I'll pull up in a moment. Any member of the committee, voting or otherwise, may request that an item proposed to be on the consent agenda be separated and dealt with individually. So, Mr. Verbeek, will you tell us what is on the consent agenda, and then people can request removal of any specific items?
Sure. Recommend a council to grant change of agent items to, I'm sorry, I have the wrong one. Let me bring up the right one. Change of agent items 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Entity reorganization items 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. Change of license premise, item 23. Streeter extension of license premise, items 24, 25, 26, 27. A transfer of license location, item 31. Recommended council to place on file without prejudice, recess public hearing, item 30. I will say for that one, the applicant has emailed me and said they wish to withdraw their application, which is why it's there. And then recommended council to place on file without prejudice, public hearing, item 34. And the reason that one is placed on file is because it is a class A within the alcohol overlay district, which is not allowed. So they've since been refunded their fees.
So thank you, Mr. Verbeek. Committee, what items would you like removed from the consent agenda? Mr. Verbeek. I'm sorry, Alder Verbeek.
I think that's a demotion for Jim. You said Alder Verbeek, I think.
Wow.
Demotion and pay, that's for sure. Anyway.
Alder Verveer, thank you. Wow, we're 5 minutes in and it's been a long day. I'm
No
sorry.
worries.
Thanks, everybody.
No worries. And Charles and I were the ones that were in the 10-hour marathon council meeting last night. I guess Joe was too.
I got no excuse.
But anyway, this is very, very, very minor, and I could have done this by email, admittedly. But Jim, if you could just make a correction to the typo for agenda item number 26, Pizza Bruta. It's in Alder District 13, so it obviously shouldn't be me. It should be Alderperson Evers.
All right. Thank you, Alder Verveer. Any
Thank you.
further corrections or separations? Okay. Oh, Mr. Fletcher.
agenda. I'd move approval of the consent agenda.
We have a motion to approve from Mr. Fletcher. Is there a second?
A second.
Second from Alderman Mianzi. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any need for a roll call vote on this item? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. So if you are in attendance for one of the items that Mr. Verbeek is about to read out, and I realize I should have just kept sharing it, your item has been disposed of and you are free to take off. Mr. Verbeek.
So the consent agenda that has been passed is for the items as follows. For the meeting May 19, 2021, recommended council to grant item number 5, change of agent in Towner LLC. Item number 6, change of agent Frame Shift Arts Cafe LLC. Item number 7, change of agent Dave & Buster's of Wisconsin LLC. Item number 8, change of agent Stalzy's Deli LLC. Item number 9, change of agent Wisconsin CVS Pharmacy LLC. Item number 10, change of agent Avenue Restaurant LLC. Item number 11, change of agent Rare Hospitality International Inc. Item number 12, change of agent Tex Mess LLC. Item number 13, change of agent Bird Dog Hospitality IV LLC. Item number 14, change of agent Fresco LLC. Item number 15, change of agent Quick Trip Inc. Item number 16, entity reorganization in Towner LLC. Item number 17, entity reorganization Walgreens Inc. at 606 South Whitney Way. Item number 18, entity reorganization Frame Shift Arts Cafe LLC. Item number 19, entity reorganization LQ Management LLC. Item number 20, entity reorganization Walgreens Inc. at 7810 Mineral Point Road. And number 21, entity reorganization Walgreens Inc. at 3710 East Washington Avenue. Item number 22, entity reorganization Walgreens Inc. at 8302 Old Sauk Road. Item number 23, change of agent, licensed premises, Madco Inc., Rocky Rococo Restaurants. Item number 24, streeter extension, licensed premise, Knickerbocker Restaurant LLC. Item number 25, streeter extension, licensed premise, Atwood Restaurant LLC. Item number 26, streeter extension, licensed premise, Sendero LLC. Item number 27, streeter extension of licensed premise, Boss Meadery LLC. Item number 31, transfer of license location, International Commons Inc. Current address 5810 Mineral Point Road. New address 5910 Mineral Point Road. Recommended council to place on file without prejudice. Recess public hearing. Item number 30, public hearing new license Brick House Barbecue LLC at 408 West Gorham Street. And recommended council to place on file without prejudice public hearing. Item number 34, public hearing new license Dolgen Corp LLC, 508 University Avenue.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Verbeek. So once again, if you're here for one of these items, it has been disposed of and you are welcome to take off. Next up on our agenda, item 2, election of the ALRC committee chair. Mr. Verbeek, can you describe how this is going to work for us in these pandemic times?
Sure. So I have a thing called, I think it's Vote Everywhere. And what it does is once the committee makes a nomination for chair, I can put in the choices for the committee and then send them, and then everyone should have the link right now, and I'll activate it. They can do their vote in a secret ballot, and I'll tell you how the votes break down, and then we can elect our chair, and then we'll do the same thing again for the vice chair.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Verbeek. So do I hear any notifications for chair? Or nominations for chair. Mr. Fletcher.
I'd like to nominate Michael Donnelly for the position of chair.
I accept the nomination. Are there any further nominations for chair of the ALRC? Are there any further nominations for chair of ALRC? That's a third time. Are there any further nominations for chair of the ALRC? All right, I will now close nominations and Mr. Verbeek, tell us what to do.
I would defer to Attorney Brisk, but I don't think we have to vote if we don't have any opposition.
If you should at least Alder Verveer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to suggest that we simply re-elect you by acclamation. So I would formally move that we elect Mr. Donnelly as chairperson by acclamation.
Okay.
No objection. I don't think we need to do anything further.
I hear a
Congratulate
motion.
you and thank you, Michael.
I'm not familiar with acclamation. What does that mean?
That there's no opposition.
Okay. So do we still have a motion, a second, and a vote?
It's equivalent to a unanimous ballot cast for Michael Donnelly.
Okay.
So move then, if that's the way you want to word it.
I'll second it.
Just want to dot the I's and cross the T's. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I just want to be super proprietous for things like this. Mr. Verbeek, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Hold on, for some reason. Okay. Alder Miadzi,
Aye.
Alder Verveer,
Aye.
Ms. Reese,
Aye.
Alder Carter,
Aye.
Mr. Fletcher,
Aye.
Mr. Donnelly.
Chair does not vote.
We have 5 ayes and no nays.
Right. On to item 3, election of the ALRC vice chair. Do I hear any nominations for vice chair? Alder Verveer and then Alder Carter.
Thank you. I nominate Mr. Fletcher for vice chairperson.
Mr. Fletcher, do you accept the nomination?
I accept.
Alder Carter.
Of course, Mike has to take my thunder. I nominate Mr. Fletcher.
All right.
Actually, I second.
Excellent. Are there any further nominations for vice chair of the ALRC? Any further nominations for vice chair? Third time, any further nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, I will close nominations and I guess entertain a motion, perhaps from Alder Carter.
Yes, I move. I move the nomination for vice chair for Mr. Fletcher for the 2021-22 year.
Is there a second? Dr. Reese.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Alder Carter, second by Dr. Reese. Any discussion? Hearing none, anyone feel the need for a roll call vote? Let the record show there was no opposition. Motion passes unanimously. So, and congratulations, Vice Chair Fletcher. Next item, item 4, change of agent for Quick Trip at 6201 Raymond Road. Mr. Verbeek, do we have a registrant for this item?
Let's see.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Randy Tilk is registered as not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions.
All right. Can you give us the background on this, and then committee members can decide if they would like to have any questions for him?
Yep, it's a change of agent application. The only reason it was not put in the consent agenda this week or last week is because there was an item that was flagged on it in the background check process.
All right, Captain Donahue, can you run that down for us, please?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that request?
Of course. We're on item 4, change of agent for Quick Trip. The new proposed agent is Randy Tilk, and Mr. Verbeek informed us that something came up on the background check and is asking you to let us know what's going on.
I don't have it in front of me and don't recall it, but I can run over and see if there's a file available to me. It'll take me a couple of minutes though.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to table item 4 then to give Captain Donahue time to Alder Revere.
So move to place upon the table.
Motion from Alder Revere, second from Mr. Fletcher to place item 4 on the table. Any dissent? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Item 4 is on the table. Next item 28, change of licensed conditions for Garibaldi Mexican Restaurant at 117 South Butler Street. Mr. Verbeek, do we have an applicant here for this item? Jim, you are muted if you're...
Yeah, I'm not seeing a registrant for this item.
All right. Committee, what is your pleasure? Alder Revere.
Thank you. I move to refer this item to our next regular meeting.
Hear a motion to refer and see a second from Mr. Fletcher. Any discussion? Hearing none, is there any dissent in referring item 28 to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting? Motion passes unanimously. Item 29, renewal of entertainment licenses. So this is a big one. How do people want to handle this? I guess. But Alder Revere.
Thank you. I suggest that we take this item up when we consider agenda item number 40 so that we don't keep our new applicants waiting. We handle the renewals toward the end of the agenda, please.
That sounds reasonable to me, and I see several people nodding, so we will make it so. Therefore, moving on to item 32, new license for Chuck E. Cheese at 438 Grand Canyon Drive. Mr. Verbeek, do we have a registrant for this item?
We do. Diane Wilson is registered as support, now wishing to speak, but available to answer questions.
Well, then I have an initial question. Dan, can you please give us a brief overview of your proposed establishment?
So it's just a simple name change. We're an entertainment facility for children. We are regulated to only serve 2 beers an hour to any customer. Really, I don't sell any beer. We're just trying to keep our existing license. It's just 2 tap beers is all we serve, but we hardly serve any beer.
Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Alder Revere.
Thank you. and thanks for joining us tonight. So if I understand the application correctly, there's absolutely no change in operation. This is simply required because you're emerging from Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
If there are no further questions, Mr. Chair, I move to grant.
Motion to grant from Alder Revere and a second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion? Any dissent? Seeing none, item 32 passes unanimously. Next, item 33, new license for the Dive Inn at 521 Cottage Grove Road.
Who was the second on that last item?
Dr. Reese. Mr. Fletcher was a little too slow. So, Jim, item 33, Dive Inn at 521 Cottage Grove Road. Do we have a registrant for this item?
We do. Ryan Ramig in support, not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions. I believe he's the applicant.
Ryan, are you indeed the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Can you please let us know a bit about your proposed establishment?
Yeah. Am I able to screen share at all?
I would have to ask Joe, is he able to?
Fine. I have my presentation queued up that I did for the Lake Edge Neighborhood Association. Basically, me and my partner, who is part owner of Alchemy and Ideal Bar, we would like to take over the Blighted Bar, formerly known as Joe Beck's on Cottage Grove Road. We want to rename it Dive Inn. We're going for kind of a elevated dive bar feel, dive bar chic, and yeah, we want to just be good neighbors to the community and make the place look better and act better.
Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Fletcher.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Ryan. So you mentioned that you kind of want to revitalize the space and the operations of the kind of former entity that was there. Can you go into a little bit more detail about what you mean by that?
Yes. The former bar has been closed for a year before that, and as far as I know, they were having troubles before they closed, and they were not going to get their liquor license back. My partner started the Alchemy 12 years ago on Shanks Corners. Before it was a lot more sleepier back then, and he was one of the cornerstones. The Alchemy was one of the cornerstones that revitalized Shanks Corners down there. And we want to do the same for Cottage Grove Road. Cottage Grove Road is also a burgeoning community with all the development going up, and we just see a lot of opportunity to be a good neighbor and an asset to the community.
Ryan, what is the reaction of some of the neighbors as you've been engaged in conversations with the kind of local sort of residents and others in that area?
I've been very excited to get a great reception from the community. We had a very interactive neighborhood association meeting with residents. Our new neighbors to the back brought up a lot of concerns, and rightly so. I believe we were able to address all of them, or the vast majority of them, at the Lake Edge Neighborhood Association meeting, to the point that they voted unanimously to write a letter in support, which I believe I forwarded to Mr. Verbeek. And I have it queued up here if I can screen share, the big deal. So yes, the community has been very excited, and I'm really excited to act on it.
And we do have the kind of letter in the packet, so that's good. That's all my questions for now, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Alder Verveer.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. And mainly they center on outdoor service and consumption. Can you just please confirm, because it's a bit confusing from your application, what the current or what the previous patio was outside and what you're proposing, both in terms of square footage approximately and the capacity outdoors?
Well, we had a grand plan for a 20 by 20 front patio, but we are still going through approval processes with the city, and so not going to do a patio. We're just going to redo the front facade. I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with the way the front looks, but there's cinder block walls and a crumbling stoop. We intend to add an ADA ramp, new front entryway, new awning, and new signage. So there would be that does not involve any outdoor seating.
So on your, I don't know if you have your application in front of you, but in question number 8, or description of the premises, you don't mention any outdoor service or consumption. But then for question number 9, it says estimated outdoor capacity between 5 and 15. And then in the letter that we just received, and that within the hour from the alder of the district, he suggests that at the neighborhood meeting that you had agreed to limit outdoor seating hours. So am I understanding you correctly that you do not wish to receive a license tonight that includes any outdoor seating at this time, or you're just simply sharing with us that you're going through the zoning process and that's in progress, but you will eventually have outdoor seating that you would like approval from us this evening?
The latter, sir. With the discrepancy, I believe when I filled out the liquor license application, I had the idea that we were going to have a 20 by 20 patio on the front, but since that is not going to happen right out of the gate.
Well, that's fine if you aren't going to be outside, right when you open, but we want to make sure we do it right this evening. So in your application, first of all, we should amend question number 8, the licensed premise, where so you absolutely do want service outside. And is that a rear, or correct me if I'm wrong, that's my understanding, that's going to be a front patio or a rear patio? I'm confused.
Nothing in the back, sir, as requested by our backdoor neighbors. There will be no seating. There would be one smoking bench in an agreed upon place with our backdoor neighbor, Mindy, that we've been working with.
So there would be a patio in the front, correct?
Not a patio, but outdoor seating.
Okay. How many seats would you estimate will be in the front patio?
I'd say.
Sorry if I keep using the word patio, but
no, it's fine. I'm using patio too, and then I'm supposed to say we want to offer outdoor seating in the times of the pandemic. We want to offer people an outdoor option. So I would estimate 12 seats in the outdoor seating in the front.
So you would like to amend your application tonight on the record here so that question number 8, description of premises, would include front patio or seating, outdoor seating in the front of the premise. And then for question number 9, you say here indoor 50 to 60, and I realize you applied, over a month ago for this. So I don't know if things have changed in your conversations with city building inspection or fire inspection, but we, instead of having ranges, we like to have specific capacities. So for question number 9, you're saying the capacity would be between 50 and 60 inside and 5 to 15 outside. So you're saying, I think you just said that you're now asking for 12 outdoors. Is that correct?
No, I'd like to ask for 16 outdoors.
16, sorry. Okay, so 16 outdoors, and what do you think the capacity will be indoors as of tonight?
Is that taking into consideration the pandemic laws or regular times?
No, this is, we only give you one license capacity, so it doesn't matter if we're in a pandemic or not.
Okay, then I'd say 60.
60. And do you know what Joe Beck's capacity was?
No, sir, I do not.
Mr. Verbeck, while we're on this item, could you look up for us, unless you have it right now, what the current license capacity is at this premise for indoors and outdoors, if there is, if you have it?
I'm looking it up right now.
Thanks very much. And then, lastly, sir, let me ask about, and I referenced it earlier, Alderperson Foster's recommendation to us tonight that we received in the last hour or so. He says, quote, have you seen the email? Oh yeah, it looks like he sent it to you. He copied you on it. So I wanted to ask you about the last paragraph. Two items that were discussed at the meeting and that were agreeable to the applicant were to install a privacy fence along the back of the lot to provide separation with the neighbors and to limit the outdoor seating hours. Please consider those requests as you take up this item tonight. Could you elaborate on those items? And in particular, I'm interested in what hours you agreed to at the neighborhood to cease outdoor service.
So we are gonna close the bar. Well, our posted hours will be 9 a.m. to midnight, Sunday through Thursday, and 9 a.m. to close Friday, Saturday. And we would like to close the outdoor patio seating 1 hour before bar close. And did you articulate that to the neighborhood when you had the meeting or meetings with them? Yes. At that time of, so you're saying 1:30 on weekends and perhaps as late as 1 a.m. during the week, although you say you like. No, we would cap it off at midnight. Midnight, 7 days a week outside? An hour before close, but no later than midnight. And that's what you conveyed to the neighborhood, and they found that acceptable. You would represent. Well, it's been evolving since our Lake Edge Neighborhood Association meeting. But I'm very open to working with Alder Grant Foster, our neighbors behind us, and our neighbors across the street in the Royster Commons building. Thank you. We have received communications from some of your neighbors about this application. Can you share with us then, again, I'm sorry I'm only talking about the patio or outdoor seating, but that's what impacts your neighbors the most, of course. And I realize it'll be a huge improvement over what was there recently or most recently. So congratulations on that. Not that you won't exceed our expectations, even compared to the previous establishment there. But can you share with us where you are in the city zoning process? Is there already a conditional use for outdoor food and drink, as we call it, at this address? No. You have to start from scratch with a brand new conditional use permit. We're starting from scratch. Okay. And we just submitted it this afternoon to the UDC. Okay, so you know that it'll probably take about 60 days approximately then for that process? Yes, sir. Okay, very good. All right, so just so you know, the Plan Commission will also would be interested in regulating hours outside and any amplification outside. So we'll try to hopefully be consistent here and not have inconsistent conditions tonight and when you're before the Plan Commission in a month or two. Those are all the questions I have now. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Revere. Next up is Alder Carter.
Yeah, Brian, I'm looking at your submission, and it doesn't look like for the hours that you're going to be open, you're not really serving enough food or food varieties. Can you tell me more about how this was selected?
Could you cite the number on the application you're regarding?
Cite the number.
I believe number 25 under section E.
This is on the dive in once considered. It's a summation.
I'm not sure what document you're speaking of, but I can tell you exactly what we're doing. It's a straight up, it's a very small bar. We will have, the only food options are going to be frozen pizzas, bags of chips and pretzels and peanuts, beef jerky, pickled eggs.
I'm speechless. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter.
I just want to say that to answer Alder Revere's question, the Joe Beck capacity was 50 indoors, no capacity outdoors.
Thank you, Mr. Verbeek. Committee, what further questions do you have for the applicant? All right, Mr. Verbeek, do we have any other registered speakers for this item?
We do not.
Committee, what is your pleasure? Alder Carter.
I move approval.
Your motion to approve from Alder Carter. Is there a second? Alder Revere has his hand up. Are you seconding?
I second with some conditions that hopefully Alderperson Carter would find friendly to her motion.
Take it away.
And I've been in communication with Alderperson Foster during this hearing. So what he's saying, and I'm sorry, he's in another meeting, so he can't join us for the meeting. Yeah, so I'm sorry. If we can withhold on the motion for a minute, Mr. Chair, let me just communicate what Alderperson Foster says. He said that his recollection during the neighborhood meeting, so this would be a question for the applicant, please. He says that the applicant had represented, quote, something like 9 p.m. on weekdays, and that noise is the biggest concern of the neighborhood, so I would be hesitant to allow outdoor service until 1 a.m. The alder would prefer to start easy and increase later if things go well, quote unquote. So with that said, Ryan, would you find it agreeable to follow Alderperson Foster's recommendation and concede a closing of the outdoor seating a little earlier than the 1:30 a.m. on weekends that you were suggesting earlier?
Yes, I'm totally open to that.
Okay. So now that I've read what Alder Foster's been texting me here, what time do you think is reasonable?
Midnight.
On weekends, and what about weekdays? Again, Alder Foster thought that there was a discussion of 9 p.m. Does that sound right or no? During the weekdays?
During weekdays, 9 p.m. closing on the patio. That's what Alder Foster suggested or proposed.
Well, that's what he believes the conversation was at the neighborhood meeting, but I don't know if that's 100% accurate.
I think 9:30 is a little early on the weekdays. If I could, and I totally agree with them. Let's start small, and I want to gain the community's trust. I'd like to be open till 10:30 on a patio on a nice weekday night.
Okay, why don't we?
Can I interject?
Yes, please, Ryan.
So Hawk Sullivan is owner of Jade Monkey, and he's been a great mentor for us and also in support us. And I just talked to him today about the outdoor seating, and his outdoor seating is open as long as his bar is open. Now, I realize that the Jade Monkey down the street there doesn't have as many residential guests or neighbors as we do. So I am open to, we have the brand new, beautiful Royster Commons on top of the Pinny Branch Library, which I want to be a great neighbor to them. I've heard tales of people coming out on, they have this nice new apartment and they come out on their balcony overlooking Cottage Grove Road, and then there's this blighted bar just below them. I want to be quite the contrary. I want them to see people having a good time down there and either be able to cheers us from the balcony or come down and have a drink with us. But that is, I'm sorry I got rambled on. That has nothing to do with what time we're going to close.
So how about this to start? And let me say that this will be before the city council at our June 1st meeting, most likely if all goes well tonight. So Alderperson Foster and you might want to have another conversation between now and the June 1st city council meeting when we'll take final action on this at that venue. And then, as I also said earlier, the Plan Commission might have a different idea for hours outdoors that might be more restrictive or more lenient, but you can't be in violation of whatever alcohol license conditions we end up here with. So just to say all that as a preamble, how about if we suggest that outdoor service, I shouldn't say service because I don't know if the customers, how about this? I have no objection to people being outside smoking, for example, after 10 o'clock, but outdoor alcohol consumption will cease at 10 p.m. weekdays and midnight on weekends. And you can always come back and ask for a change in those license conditions. Or Alderperson Foster could suggest something different at the June 1st council meeting.
And so just that you say 10 p.m. on weekdays, Sunday through Thursday, midnight Saturday. Is that what you're proposing?
Yes, that's what I was suggesting, was 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday evenings and midnight on Friday and Saturday evenings.
I think that's very reasonable.
Okay, thank you. And then Alderperson Foster also requested that we consider a condition on your license tonight relating to that rear fence that you had promised apparently at the neighborhood meeting. Do you have any objection to the condition relating to the construction of a fence along the rear property line?
No, sir. Already working with and talking to that neighbor.
Wonderful. And then lastly, Ryan, as it relates to the capacity, you heard the deputy city clerk articulate that Joe Beck's license capacity was 50. Do you have any concern with continuing the capacity that was previously there, which is what we typically do? And you can, again, always come back to us if it turns out that the building code and fire code allows you to exceed 50 persons inside.
Yep, that's fine, sir. Can I clarify the no capacity outdoors? Does that mean 0 people outdoors or unlimited people outdoors?
No, it would be 50 inside and 16 outside. Isn't that what you were suggesting?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Does that sound good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. And then, so Mr. Chair, back to the maker of the motion, Alderperson Carter, are those friendly, and I can repeat them all in terms of the motion that's before us?
Those are friendly conditions. Thank you.
Okay.
For everyone's benefit, could you read those off, please?
So we would be moving to grant with a capacity of 50 indoors and 16 outdoors that alcohol consumption cease outdoors by 10 p.m. on weekdays and 12 o'clock midnight on weekends. And then as a second condition, that the establishment shall erect a privacy fence along the rear property line.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Committee, is there any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Seeing none, motion to grant item 33, new license for the Dive Inn at 521 Cottage Grove Road, grant with conditions. Motion passes unanimously. All right, I see that Captain Donahue has returned to us. I would now entertain a motion to pick up item 4 off the table again. Motion by Mr. Fletcher. Is there a second? Second from Dr. Reese. All in any dissent to picking up item 4 off the table? Motion passes unanimously. We're back to item 4. Captain Donahue.
Sorry about that. So during the background investigation, there was an open case found for a couple of items that fit guideline number 2 that is used during background investigations as it relates to the agent.
And what were those items that you discovered?
So guideline 2 states, provided the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or licensed activity, any person who has been convicted of or has a current charge pending for 1 or more offenses within the last 5 years, or for 2 or more offenses arising out of separate incidents within the last 10 years. The categories include violent crimes against the person of another, including but not limited to battery, disorderly conduct, and a host of other charges. And the applicant has an open case in circuit court for disorderly conduct, simple battery, both with a domestic enhancer.
Okay. Committee, what is Dr. Reese?
I just want to note that it appears that this case has not even gone to initial appearance yet. So considering a person is innocent until proven guilty, this hasn't even gone through that baseline step yet. So just to point out to the committee for consideration.
And if I can also just add, due to the nature of this, we're not expecting Mr. Tilk to respond to anything that I've said or make any comments about it. But this is common due to COVID, that the initial appearances have been delayed in court.
All right, thank you, Captain Donahue and Dr. Reese. Committee, what is your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if Attorney Brisk might comment on, where the committee has, or even Alderman, where the committee has kind of dealt with similar circumstances in the past, where we're at a similar stage in the proceedings. What the kind of previous discussions have been.
Not aware of previous incidents similar where there's a pending charge like this one. I don't know, perhaps Alder Verveer must be one of the senior members of the committee. Perhaps he remembers.
Well, just to jump in here, no, I can't recall a similar situation where we were waiting on an initial appearance. If it's in order, could we ask the applicant a question or two at this point?
You may.
Sure. Thank you. Are you there, sir? Mr. Tilk?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I know that this is unpleasant. Sorry to put you on the spot. We just have to follow the state law as it relates to these matters.
Absolutely.
Can I just ask you about your background in management? I presume you've been with the company for some time.
I have been with Quick Trip for 3 years. I've been a store leader for almost 2 years now.
Is this your first time as an alcohol agent that's proposed here, or have you previously been an alcohol agent?
I have been an alcohol agent for store 954 on Mineral Point Road, and I just transferred stores as of April 9th to the Raymond Road store.
I see. And do you dispute at all what Captain Donahue articulated in terms of pending domestic charges?
I do not dispute that.
Can I ask lastly, is your employer aware of that situation, or do you feel that your pending case in any way could jeopardize your appointment as alcohol agent here?
I have made my employer known of my pending case after it happened, and then I will be seeing, or my case will be taking place next week.
Oh, I see. Your initial appearance is scheduled for next week already?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Revere. Dr. Reese.
I move to approve the change.
I'll second to grant.
The motion to grant from Dr. Reese, second from Alder Revere. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Seeing none, motion to grant item 4 passes unanimously. All right. Next up is item 35, new license for Big Sur Cantina at 7436 Mineral Point Road. Mr. Verbeck, do we have a registrant for this item?
We do. Jessica Escamilla is registered in support, not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions.
Jessica, are you the applicant?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you please give us a brief overview of what your business will be?
Sure. Yes. Big Sur Cantina is going to be a full service sit down restaurant. And our sales will be 85% food, 15% alcohol.
Pardon, did you say 85% food and 50% alcohol?
15, sorry.
Excellent. Is this a franchise?
It is not, no.
Then that obviates my next question. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Okay. Mr. Verbeck, Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Jessica, just out of kind of curiosity, is there any sort of kind of business relationship between you and the former proprietor of the establishment, O'Grady's, that was at the same location?
No, there is not, sir.
And you're aware of some of the challenges at that location?
I am, yes. However, Big Sur Cantina is a family-friendly business. Then our latest hours that we would be open would be midnight on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. However, we will be serving food the entire time as well.
Okay. And out of curiosity, what is the response been from just the you know, I know it's kind of in a strip mall area over there, but have you kind of had any discussions with local residents and others about your proposed establishment?
Yes. People are very enthused, and looking forward to the restaurant opening. I have not heard any oppositions for the location.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Wendy, what other questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for this item? All right, committee, what's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just out of curiosity, Jim, were there any conditions that were on O'Grady's license?
Let me look that up real quick.
Thank you.
No conditions on that license.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. Any further discussion? Motion would also be in order. Mr. Fletcher.
I'd move approval.
Motion to approve from Mr. Fletcher. Do I hear a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Alder, all right, any discussion of the motion to approve? Hearing none. Any dissent? Seeing none, motion to grant item 35, Big Sur Cantina, passes unanimously. Next, item 36, Marigold, new license for Marigold Kitchen at 118 South Pinckney Street. Mr. Verbeek, do we have a registrant here for this item?
We do. We have one registrant and support and wishing to speak. It is Clark Henney, I believe his last name. I could be butchering that.
All right.
Thank you.
Clark, are you the applicant?
Yes.
Excellent. Can you please tell us about your proposed establishment?
Yeah, Marigold Kitchen is a breakfast and lunch cafe. We've been serving Madison for 20 years this year. My wife and I are the long-term managers of Marigold, and we purchased the business from the previous owners. We'll be mainly serving Bloody Marys and mimosas for brunch. And in the evening, sometimes we cater some private events such as wedding rehearsals, graduation parties, and anniversaries. Usually there's like one or two of those a month. And for those, we would offer craft cocktails as well.
Well, you must be mistaken about something, because if you were open for 20 years and I remember it being new and going there when I moved here after college, something's wrong with that. 20 years, gosh. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Okay. Mr. Verbeek, Alder Revere.
I don't have any questions of the applicant. I'll let you go ahead and ask Mr. Verbeek if there's any other registrants.
Mr. Verbeek, are there?
There aren't any registrants. I was also going to say, just preempting the question, Marigold did have one condition of the license, and that's the sidewalk cafe must meet and comply with section 9.13, para 6, para J, para 2, and para 3 of the Madison General Ordinances.
Thank you, Mr. Verbeek.
We've been working with the sidewalk committee as well, and we have our license applied for.
Excellent. Thank you, Clark. Alder Verveer.
Thank you. I move to grant.
With the previous conditions or without conditions?
Without conditions, and I'll explain why if there's a second.
Do I see a second? Okay, second from Mr. Fletcher. Alder Verveer.
Thank you. First, let me just say how excited I am to have Marigold reopen as we're coming out of the pandemic, and it's exciting that Clark and Christy are able to take the reins of ownership. So as I communicated to Clark earlier, I'm very excited about them reopening and look forward to being back there come July. In terms of the condition, that is further proof that Marigold has been around for, I guess, 2 decades, Mr. Donnelly, because back in the old days, we routinely included that condition on Sidewalk Cafe alcohol licenses. But in the interest of efficiency, it was simply seen as redundant, because if someone has a Sidewalk Cafe license, they have to follow all the provisions of Chapter 9.13 of the Madison General Ordinances anyway. So I would suggest no conditions here, and I think that condition has slowly been removed from Sidewalk Cafes over the years in terms of this committee's work.
Thank you for the history on that, Alder Verveer. All right. Any further discussion of this item? All right. We have a motion and a second to grant. Is there any dissent? Seeing none. Item 36 passes unanimously. Next up is item 37, new license for Portillo's Hot Dogs at 7230 West Town Way. Mr. Verbeek, do we have a registrant for this item?
We do. We have one registrant, Luigi Ranieri, in support, not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions.
Okay, Luigi, are you the applicant?
Good evening, yes, I am.
Excellent. Could you please tell us a little bit about your proposed establishment?
Portillo's is a beer and wine. We're seeking a beer and wine license. We serve hot dogs, burgers, beef sandwiches, chicken sandwiches, fries, Coke beverages. We are a capacity of around 800 people in the restaurant. The outside dining will have a gated, fenced-in area with access only from the main dining area. We have been around since 1963. I'm excited that this will be our second Madison location, our 4th location in Wisconsin State. Any other questions on who we are?
Looks like there is one from Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks. Edward, you answered my one question, which was your involvement in the other Madison locations. So I guess I just wanted to know if there is anything that the committee should be aware of with respect to kind of operational differences between the two locations that you would, want to flag for the committee's attention or knowledge.
Nothing pertaining to the liquor license. The West Madison location is going to be our first 3-lane drive-through. 2 lanes are going to be designated currently like we have established at the East Madison location, but we're going to put a 3rd lane for online orders to be picked up as an essential curbside lane. That is going to be our major difference at this location. It is going to be the first location in Portillo's history to have this. And the West Madison location is going to be the pilot for this to see if we're going to move forward in other locations throughout the country.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I apologize. That's the only difference.
Thanks, Luigi. I apologize for butchering your name.
Perfect.
So I think the second question, in terms of capacity, can you remind me how is this pretty similar to the Madison, the East Town location?
Yes, yeah. It actually the square footage in the back kitchen will be a little bit smaller, but the dining area will be identical.
Okay. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. What other questions do people have for the applicant? I have one, Luigi. I'd just like to confirm the drive-through lanes are not part of your licensed premises, correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Any further questions for the applicant? Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for this item?
There are not.
All right. Committee discussion or a motion would be in order. What's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks. Jim, just out of due diligence, did we put any conditions on the East Town location? I guess I could look at the list of renewals quickly, but.
I can probably look at it faster. I don't believe we did, but let me just double check that. No, we did not.
Okay, thank you. Then, Mr. Chair, I would move to grant.
Is there a second? It's a motion from Mr. Fletcher, second from Alder Miadzi. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Seeing none. Motion to grant item 37, Portillo's Hot Dogs, is approved unanimously. Okay, next item 38. New license for Little Palace at 225 King Street. Mr. Verbeek, do we have a registrant for this item?
We do. Jacqueline Lee is registered in support, not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions.
What was the name again?
Jacqueline Lee.
Jacqueline, are you the applicant?
Yes, I am.
Okay, could you please tell us a little bit about your proposed business?
So Little Palace will be a American Chinese restaurant. So it'll be a full service restaurant, sit down service. And then the liquor license portion is we're looking to have our bar be more tiki focused, kind of a rendition of what we experienced in the 90s.
So thank you, committee. What questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Jacqueline, just going to question 26. In terms of like the planning for live entertainment, and you said not initially, which is fine. Do you have a sense of when, if things, what would be the kind of threshold for you to say, yeah, we'd like to have some live entertainment, and when would you anticipate potentially that going into effect?
We probably wouldn't anticipate that for a while, pending that we are still in a pandemic. And we definitely want to grow into the business first before worrying about that phase of it.
So not, obviously, kind of public health restrictions and yes. Separately, but are we talking years?
Yeah, at least a year.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. What other questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Verbeek, do we have any other registrants for this item?
We do not.
Alder Verbeek.
Thank you. Hello, Jacqueline. As you might have heard, I've had many conversations with Phil about this license. Is Phil your fiance?
Yes, he is.
Hi, I'm here too.
Oh, hi, Phil.
Nice to meet you. Sorry you can't see my face. I don't know how the video works.
Oh, we don't allow video for these meetings.
Oh, okay, cool.
Registrant, so you're not missing anything.
Okay.
I wish we could see each other though. Well, what I was going to say, Jacqueline, is the minute Phil mentioned Halong Bay to me, I got even more excited than I was when I heard that you were replacing Mr. Kimchi. You want to just share with my committee colleagues your relationship with the beloved Halong Bay?
Yes. So the owners that are involved is myself and also my sister. So we are nieces of Halong Bay. So Jean and Chris are our aunt and uncle, and then Phil, my fiance. So we are the nieces. We grew up in restaurants our whole lives and have worked at Halong Bay for many, many years since they opened. And Little Palace is actually supposed to be a little bit of a rebirth of our aunt that owns Halong Bay. She had a restaurant in Beaver Dam, which isn't too far from here. It's a small town called China Palace. So we really want to recreate a smaller version of it.
An honor.
Yeah, to honor her.
That's very exciting. I can't wait for your opening. It'll probably end up being as difficult as Halong Bay to get a table, though.
Yeah.
So I did notice just one quick thing. Obviously, I'm very supportive of your application. I did notice just one quick thing, and it's kind of consistent with the question I asked one of the other applicants you might have overheard. And that is in question number 8, where we ask for the description of the licensed premise where alcohol would be served, stored, consumed, etc. You don't mention the outdoor patio, but obviously in your diagram with this application, you include the outdoor patio on private property, and your application does reference 20-person capacity outdoors. So I just wanted to confirm on the record that we should add in the outdoor patio for question number 8, the description of your licensed premise.
Yes, please.
Very good. Those are the only questions I had. I obviously wish you the best of luck. And if there are no other questions, Chairperson Donnelly, I would move to grant without any conditions.
A motion to grant from Alder Revere, second from Mr. Fletcher. Any discussion? Seeing none, is there any dissent to unanimously approving item, for goodness sake, 38, sorry, item 38, Little Palace. Seeing no dissent, the item passes unanimously. I will join Alder Verveer in saying I look forward to this. Halong Bay is probably my girlfriend's favorite restaurant in town, so having more access to similar food will be great.
Yay. Thank you.
Okay, next up is item 39, new license for McTaggart's Market and Deli at 230 West Lawn Place. Mr. Burbank, do we have a registrant for this item?
We do. Richard Schober is registered in support, not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions.
Excellent. Richard, are you the applicant?
I am.
Excellent. Can you please tell us a little bit about your proposed business?
We are already operating under a Class A malt beverage license, really just looking to be able to sell wine products and cider products. So it's an upgrade to my existing license that I've held for almost 30 years.
That sounds pretty straightforward. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Seeing no questions, Mr. Alder Verveer.
Thank you. Just one question. First of all, Richard, nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, good to see you again.
We go back a very, very long ways. So anyway, long time no see.
Well, I can see you. You can't see me.
Right. So just to confirm what you just articulated, and this is consistent with what Alderperson Heck had shared previously as well. Your request simply is to add wine to your current longtime beer offerings. So it would be obviously renewing your Class A beer license, but it would be Class A liquor with the condition that it's limited to cider and wine sales only. Is that correct?
Yes. We're not looking to sell hard alcohol. I don't even want to open that can of worms. So it's just beer, wine, and cider products.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Verveer. Captain Donahue.
The only question I have is how is this going to change your current inventory? Excuse me. Obviously, you have limited space, and I'm just curious how the wine and cider, what inventory they will be replacing, I guess.
It's really not, I am not going to include like an entire wine selection. Really what I'm looking to do is cater to my current clients. So we're just really talking wine in a box and maybe some barefoot wine. and being able to sell like woodchuck cider and those effects. So really it will replace current inventory, and I plan on putting a little shelving unit to sell the wine up front.
Thank you.
All right. What further questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants?
There are not.
Committee, what's your pleasure? Alder Verveer.
Thank you. I move to grant with the customary downtown campus area conditions, and then a further condition that the Class A liquor license be limited to cider and wine sales only.
All right. Is there a second to this motion? Second from Alder Miadzi. Go ahead.
If I could just say a word or two, thank you, Chairperson Donnelly. And there can be any follow-up questions if necessary, and I could look them up and articulate them. But I believe that the existing McTaggart's Class A beer license has all of the current many conditions that relate to beer and wine on their license, and since they do not plan to have spirits, those don't necessarily need to be included, but I guess to be safe and consistent, we could, Mr. Verbeek, just include all of the conditions that are currently on their license. I believe I just pulled up their current license for the Class A beer, and it looks as though those conditions that were added back in 2009 are all the current uniform conditions that we have in existence in this geographic area. And so obviously the applicant is well aware and has been operating under these conditions for many, many years.
To clarify, it would be these same conditions plus the condition that the Class A liquor be limited to wine and cider sales only?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Captain Donahue.
I'm sorry, I should have asked this previously. Was there a meeting with the community and the neighborhood association?
I spoke with Alder Heck, and he said because it was just updating the condition or the current license, that one was not necessary. I have posted the signage since I originally applied, and I've heard no objections.
Thank you.
Who was the second on the motion?
Alder Miadzi. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Is there any dissent? Seeing none, motion to grant item 39 passes unanimously. Unless there's any objection, I'd like to take up item 43 next. That is a request for license issuance extension for the Harvey House at 644 West Wash. Any objection to taking that up now? I see none. Item 43. So, Mr. Verbeek, can you tell us what's happening here?
The applicant is asking for another extension of their license issuance date. I guess I'll let the applicant speak further. The applicant is registered in support, not wishing to speak, but available to answer questions. It's Shina Puppich.
Mr. Fletcher.
And Jim, just from my knowledge, what's the kind of total amount of time now that we've extended this for, and currently to date without this pending extension?
That's a good question. And I think the best place for me to look at that is my summary of issued licenses. And my PDF is locking up right now. I do know that the applicant has come before this committee a few times with changes of premise to what's been approved since then. So there has been appearances, not just for the extension, but there's been other things. It looks like it was initially granted September of 2019. There was extensions granted in November of 2019, May of 2020, and November of 2020.
Thank you. And then maybe a question for the applicant, Mr. Chair. Shana, can you clarify the status overall of kind of the premise and again, why is another extension in order? I think that'd be my baseline sort of query.
Sure. And again, my apologies. I mean, this is sort of embarrassing to be asking for an additional extension. This project has extended spatially and, through the pandemic and through various issues with renovating a building that had no infrastructure from 1903. We really didn't know exactly what we were getting into at the beginning of this project. And people told me to apply for our liquor license early, and I did, and I just didn't know how long this process was going to take. But we are super close. The issue it's not actually current, but the issue that's making this current extension happen is that we were in our sort of last phase of construction, and our general contractors were going to do the finishing of the staircase, the main staircase, and realized that the landlord's team had put the staircase in short. So the treads were too short. They were a residential inch tread, not a commercial sized tread. So the entire staircase had to be ripped out and rebuilt. And so that took, as you can imagine, a lot more time than we anticipated, and kind of some back and forth between us and the landlord and figuring out whose responsibility that was financially. We got to a really great resolution and moved forward, and the stair is done. But the handrail is being finished tomorrow. And then our exit signs are on back order, but I feel very confident that in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to finish up this process. We do have an opening date, and we are hiring staff, and we are feeling really positive and excited about the project as much as we were at the beginning, and feel great about the progress, and it's looking really beautiful, and the excitement in the neighborhood has been really exciting for us as business owners and in the city as a whole. But yeah, the staircase was a real wrench.
So Shana, would it be safe to say, and I get kind of back orders right now because of the supply chain issues that COVID has caused and is continuing to exacerbate. But the extensions for up to 180 days, your thinking is this is going to be kind of done in the next, generally month or so.
I'm hoping that we're going to apply for the liquor license next week on Tuesday. That's the hope. And if it's not then it will be within the next week of that. We've been, pushing really hard, and that's why I waited to apply for this extension, because I really didn't want to bother you guys again, but we just didn't get there.
Thank you very much.
I believe I reached out to Shane and advised that it's getting close, and if she's not able to get it extended, that she might want to, if she's not able to get it issued yet, that she may want to pursue the extension.
Thanks, Jim. What further questions are there for the applicant? Committee, what's your pleasure? Alder Griffin.
Thank you. I move to grant.
A motion to grant from Alder Revere. Is there a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion?
Thank you. Let me just say that Shana was not exaggerating when she said there's great excitement in the neighborhood about the Harvey House is opening, as she knows, because we've been in regular communication. So, Shana, we can't wait and hope we don't have to see you here at the LRC again anytime soon.
Thanks. I'll buy you all a drink when we're ready.
Well, we can't do that.
Probably not that, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I will not buy you a drink. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
We know what you meant. It's okay. So, all right. Is there any further discussion on item 43? All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any dissent? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Item 43 is granted. All right. Time for the big ones. Items 40 and 29. 40 is renewal of alcohol licenses. 29 is renewal of entertainment licenses. So I see Mr. Fletcher stretching his hand. Is that Mr. Fletcher?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I did look back at maybe the way that we disposed of this item, these two items, I should say, last year. I don't know if the clerk would like, Jim, are you able to just provide an overview and then talk maybe about the current separations?
I don't actually have a list of separations. I don't have any from our end. I know typically the clerk's office has separated when a licensee sort of has a shift in the ratios of food to alcohol. That's not something we're looking to do for this year, given that COVID has really thrown a wrench into things. And some of those ratios have drastically shifted because of it. And with everything about to open up again, all of them are going to go back. So it would sort of be a waste of everyone's time to treat a tavern as a restaurant or a restaurant as a tavern because of COVID ratios when all that stuff is just going to sort of return. So our office is not looking to do that. We don't have any renewals that sort of rise to the level of needing separation because they were poorly completed or missing information. The compliance on that was pretty good, and the ones that weren't good weren't even really renewed anyways, so they're not on a list of renewals. So I don't really have anything further.
And then can I ask from the city attorney's office, are there any separations?
There are not, and this is actually the only good thing to come out of COVID is that they're, with the decreased capacity and some places not open at all the past year, there really were no issues that rose up to warranting separation.
Well, great. Thanks.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
No disappointment.
No 12-hour meeting this year.
Yeah, I'm distraught because one of the meetings was actually on my birthday next week. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
By all means, thank you, Mr. Fletcher, and thank you, Assistant City Attorney Zilby. Alder Verveer.
Well, thank you. I was obviously going to perhaps ask, maybe it isn't obvious, but I was going to ask the same questions, and this is absolutely historic if we aren't going to have a single separation hearing this year whatsoever. In all the years I've served on this committee, we've never had a year off. So I look forward to Mr. Verbeek sending out the cancellation notices for the 3 special ALRC meetings that we all have on our calendars. So thank you in advance for doing that, Jim. I just wanted to confirm with Captain Donahue, though, is just to make sure that everything was funneled through Assistant City Attorney Zilby as is are custom. You haven't heard from any of your fellow captains, fellow district commanders of any concerns about any licensed establishments whatsoever. So you concur that there's, on behalf of MPD, that there's absolutely nothing to separate tonight in terms of renewals.
I concur. There are a few establishments that we're working with, but nothing that rises to the level of separation.
That's great news. Thank you. And if I could lastly ask Mr. Verbeek, given the pandemic and why we find ourselves in this good place, how have renewals come in? Obviously, we waived the late fee this year for the April 15th application date. Are they still trickling in? Have we now come and gone with the hard deadline, and so everyone from here on out has to file new applications with us?
Correct. The typical deadline we have is April 15th. And as you pointed out, there was no late fee for submitting a renewal application. So essentially the second and hard deadline was April 30th. And we did have maybe one or two that tried to submit after that. And also the added issue with this year is we had some licensees who had not renewed for this current licensing year yet. And in order to renew an alcohol license, you have to be current in the current licensing year. So they had to pay the renewal fees for this current licensing year in order to renew for next licensing year. And I know we had at least one licensee that submitted renewal paperwork but didn't submit they did submit the renewal fees for this current licensing year, and they submitted a form, but they had delinquent personal property tax holds on it still. So we couldn't issue the license. So therefore they could not renew the license. We did refund them the price of the renewal form since they weren't really in operation. They weren't going to be in operation. They solely did it for the purpose of renewing the license. And since that didn't happen, we didn't want to just say gotcha and hold on to the money. That we wanted to be good stewards and give that money back to them. So I did inform them that if they wanted to continue pursuit of alcohol, that they can submit a new application and it will go before the ALRC and Common Council for consideration.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Verbeek. In case anybody ever has this experience, the DMV has that same rule about having to catch up before you can renew stuff. Okay, so a motion would be in order. I request that you try to avoid jinxing us when making it, but committee, what's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher.
Do you want to deal with these together, Mr. Chair, or separately?
May as well do them together if you're interested in doing so.
Sounds good. I'd like to move approval for items 29 and 40. That would be moving to grant the 18 plus and 21 plus entertainment 2021-22 license renewals with restrictions as previously approved, and to include any change of corporate structure and amended conditions as set forth in the report. And I think item 40 would be approving to therefore grant the Class A liquor, Class A beer, Class A cider, Class B beer, Class B combination liquor and beer, Class C wine 2021-22 license renewals with restrictions as previously approved, and to include any change of corporate structure and amended conditions as set forth in the report. And just an addendum that all the existing conditions would carry over to next year for both the entertainment licenses and the kind of alcohol license renewals, and all the existing premises would carry over to the next year on the alcohol license renewals.
Excellent. Thank you for the motion, Mr. Fletcher. Do I hear a second? Second from Alder Carter. Discussion of Dr. Reese.
I would like to commend Mr. Fletcher on preparing that motion. It's impressive.
Thank goodness for the agenda and also being able to look back to last year. And Jim, you'll see the notations that we used last year for consistency and probably how we were to.
I echo Dr. Reese's sentiment. Any further discussion of the motion to grant items 29 and 40?
Who was the second on that?
Alder Carter.
Alder Carter, okay.
Okay, Mr. Verbeek, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Alder Miadzi?
Aye.
Alder Verveer?
Aye.
Dr. Reese?
Aye.
Alder Carter?
Aye.
Mr. Fletcher?
Aye.
That is 5 ayes and no nays.
Excellent. Thank you very much. On to item 41, summary of recent calls for service. Captain Donahue, is there anything to which you would like to call our attention?
Nothing of note.
Committee, any questions for the captain? All right, hearing none, moving on to item 42, summary of licenses issued. Mr. Verbeek, is there anything to which you would like to draw our attention beyond what you told us a minute ago?
Not really. As I mentioned, the sort of there's some licensees that had to pay fees for this current licensing year in order to renew. And so I did include files for this item to show which licensees did not renew for this current licensing year and which ones did not renew for this coming licensing year. And so, I mean, both really aren't renewing for next licensing year, but there are the lists that had to sort of get that hurdle of paying for this current licensing year in order to renew for next licensing year. So I want to include those entities so you could see who has not renewed.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. Committee, what questions do you have for our Deputy City Clerk? All right, hearing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order. I see a motion from Mr. Fletcher. Is there a second? Second from Alder Carter. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed have the same privilege. LRC meeting is adjourned at 7:17 p.m. Good night, everybody, and happy birthday in advance to Mr.
Yes, happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.